lot of people, like, understanding is the most important thing, and communication is the most important thing with any relationship with anybody ever. Even at your job, communication with the people that are calling in or your customers, whatever. That is important. So to hear these people say, oh, I didn't ask to be born. I never thought I would live this long. I didn't think I was going to see 20. I didn't think that I was going to see 30. And it's like, okay, yeah, but here you are. You're here. So take control of your life. Be accountable for your life. Your life is this way because you've made choices. You have to separate yourself from, oh, my parents had me. I didn't want, what the fuck is that shit? Like, this is life. You were put on this earth. Life is so fucking cool. Like, you could do anything and be anything and try to achieve anything that you want. It might be harder if you're Black, Mexican, or any other freaking person of color, but, you know, we're doing the best that we can to become the best that we want to be. And to hear people say shit like that, it's just so sad. And so they just stay there in that depressive state, and it's like, get out of it, snap out of it. You're put on this earth with these magical things, like the wind, like trees. Like, science to me is so magical, and most people think I'm fucking crazy, but feel the fucking wind on your face. Feel the sun on you. Like, we have these things open and available to us that are amazing. And people are just like, I didn't ask to be born. I don't want to work. I don't want to do this. Well, that's the only way that you're going to survive, and people around you are going to get sick of you if you're just fucking mopey mope. And that's something to think about. See, for myself, when I was up in Colorado, I had the hardest time finding a job. I applied for so many jobs, interviewed for so many jobs, and Colorado was shut down completely. And so I didn't get a job until the end of March. I had 2 jobs to be exact. And so not having a job and feeling like rough about it is like totally something. But I had no control over it. I was applying for jobs. I was doing the best that I could to be able to make money. But Colorado was totally fucking shut down. It's crazy. Like, I had a culture shock when I came back to Arizona. And nobody was wearing masks. Everything was open. I was like, what the fuck? And then now, with the new variant, now that's something scary, because there wasn't any cases here in the United States, but there was one in Canada just the other day, but now there's 1 or 2 in California now. So, you know, our mental health is very important, because I know people's family members that committed suicide in the beginning of the pandemic. So almost 2 years ago, as soon as this pandemic started and we were fucking on lockdown, well, most people were on lockdown, and we shouldn't have gone anywhere. Many people took their lives because of it, because they couldn't deal with it. They couldn't feel like they could do this. And those people that say, oh, I didn't want to be put on this earth, and talk about suicide all the time, well, I'm grateful that you're don't have a plan, and I'm grateful that you're not actually going through with it. But you really need to get the help that you need. And that's the only way to get through life, is to fucking take accountability for yourself. Because you can keep blaming your parents or your family members or whoever the fuck raised you or your bullies, but none of that's gonna fucking matter, because once you get over it, you only have yourself. Always. You have yourself to blame, to take care of. There's no excuses. So that's why I said, like, it's really hard for me. I kind of miss being that sulky, sad person and dwelling on myself. Like, I'm going to say now, like, what was happening in the past 6 months wasn't that person. It was just me being sad over what had happened. And if you want to know what that is, go ahead and listen to past episodes. But I'm not going to get into it now. But I'm talking about the person that was just so worried about their ego, so worried about what everybody thought of them, and was so worried about all of these things. And I haven't been that person in like 3 or 4 years. My ego is not inflated. Inflated? Whatever. You know what I'm saying. Alright. So, that, because, you know, I've had a lot of classes that I've taken. I've done a lot of philosophy classes. I've done a lot of psychology classes, because I am definitely a person of education and learning. And so, you know, an ego in philosophy is the role of yourself. And, you know, there's different theories on egoism. And then there's also the ego in psychology, which is totally different. And, let's bring Freud into it. Ooh, Freud. Freud is everything. Freud is when you mean one thing, but you say your mother. I remember I used to have that like a magnet or a pen that said that. You mean one thing, but you say your mother. Oh, yes. Our behavior is determined by the ego's interaction with the id. And there's the superego and all these different things, you know? If you don't know, you should read in it. Like, this is like, you could really change your life just by reading these things. And, but as I said, like, I sometimes miss that person, because I am a person of chaos and always have been. But as I've gotten older, it's kind of to the point where, like, if it's not serving me to be the best version of myself, I don't need it in my life. Just like when you put boundaries down and people keep fucking pushing your boundaries, and you're like, if I open up communication to these people, or if I say something, or if I do this or that, then they, you know, that's going against my own boundaries. And so you have to be strong and not do the things that you want to do because you want to be right, or you want to be, you want to explain yourself, because that's nothing. Like, really, being, oh God, I could go so deep into this, especially with things like, I discuss things a lot with people my age about gender, and how nowadays it's not that there's so many genders, it's just that so many people want to be identified as something. And I really think that is an ego. That is the role of self there. That is them trying to figure out who they are, because it doesn't really matter how you identify. It matters how you live. And that is something that I had to come to terms with my whole fucking life. Because I get asked yesterday, for example, on the phone, this fucking person was like, "Thank you, ma'am. Oh my God, I am so sorry if I misgendered you." And I was like, "No, you did not misgender me. I don't care about being pronouns at all. I don't care. I have been called sir. I've been called ma'am. I've been called everything. And so I don't really care, because what really matters is how I see myself. And how do I see myself? As a human. I don't see myself as any gender, or more female or more male or anything. I just see myself as a human. And that is something that was really hard, because especially when you're queer, like, that is something that I identify as queer, because queer can mean anything. You could be weird, or it could also mean my sexuality, because I really do not identify as pansexual or lesbian or bisexual or straight, anything. I do consider myself queer. If I had to identify as something, that's what I identify as, and I have for quite a long time. And it has bugged people that I have dated, because they were, I don't even know what they identified as now, but when we were together, I guess they were bisexual. So they would get really mad if I identified as queer, and they're like, "You are a lesbian." And I'm like, just because I'm in a relationship with you does not mean that I'm a lesbian. Like, they were trying to identify me and put things on me, and I was like, I consider myself queer. If I have to identify, I am that. But don't, you know, back then it was really important to me that they called me queer and not a lesbian. And that was very, very hard for me to deal with. But now, when people are like, what is your sexuality? And I was like, whatever. Like, I've dated men, I've dated women, I've been with fucking trans people, I've been with whoever. Because to me, gender identity couldn't be important to those people, but my ego, for me, it's not. I consider myself somebody who has a vagina. That's what I have. But I don't identify, like, as anything. Like, I don't feel the need to have to fucking identify as anything. But for my freaking culture, I do. For my culture, I most definitely do. I am fucking Mexican American. I just did a 23andMe and sent it out in the mail today. So, if you want to follow that journey, go to TikTok, because I just posted it last night, that I did it. And it was a lot of spitting to do it. So then, you know, as this person who doesn't really have an ego, and I get excited about things. I'm not dead inside. I like to say that I am, but I'm not dead inside. I'm here to live my life to the fullest and to be happy. And I am growing into the best version of myself. I have been working really hard on myself my whole life and noticed certain things. Like, I swear to God that I have a freaking light above my head that says, if you're a narcissist with the victim complex, fucking come and love me, or pretend that you're in love with me and be with me. So that is something that I have been working on this past year. That's why I stay away. I've been staying away from relationships, because apparently I do have that problem of being in relationships with people who are narcissists and have a complex, huge complex, that have issues with their parents. Like, these are things that I need to work on if I'm ever to date again, is to not date somebody who has those issues, because I have not learned my lesson, apparently. Well, yes, now I have. This time I have. I will never date anybody, and these are my boundaries. These are things that I want. This is what I need in my life. If I'm to date again, I need to be with somebody who doesn't have issues with their fucking family, because every single person I've ever dated has not had a happy home life. Ever. None of them whatsoever. At all. Period. And that is sad, that every single person that I have dated my whole entire life has not. So their mommy and daddy issues are really big at play here. In the bedroom, that's fun. But if you're underage and you're listening to this, I am sorry that I just said that. But it's the truth. But yeah. So my basic thing is about connection. And when, you know, you have that connection with somebody, the ego isn't important. And compromise is the most important thing. Not to be a pushover and to stand your ground, but to actually be able to grow with that person. And I haven't had that in so long. And so when I think about if future me wants to be in a relationship, there's going to be, I'm really going to have to just stop and think about it before I date anybody. And usually I do. This last time I did, but shit went awry. And that's okay, because everything happens for a reason. And it brought me back home to where I needed to be. And things are going very well for myself. With every like, I'm not in any relationships. I'm doing what I want to do and what I've always done. Like, when I am single, I am single. I'm going to do what I want to do. And as long as everybody knows what I'm doing. And that's how I've always been. But when I'm in a relationship, It's only about that person, and I'm not going to stray and be a hoe. Not be a hoe.